right, Dan. This here is President Bill David, President of the 582nd out there at Tango Delta Zulu, coming to you live from the bunker out here on Karras Road in Webster Township, bringing you the latest updates on the pandemic panic policy and procedures update. We got a number of things to talk about, so let's go ahead and get down to business. Well, in case you haven't heard, they canceled Oshkosh. Can't say I didn't see it coming. They already canceled Arlington out there in the West Coast, state of Washington, on account of the virus. And that flying doesn't take place till the middle or sometime in August, so it's after Oshkosh. You didn't have to be very sharp to figure out they probably was going to cancel Oshkosh, because who wants to go out there in the middle of a pandemic? Well, some people do, but most folks don't, and it would probably be a financial loss as well as a tactical and logistical nightmare to attempt to put that thing on, being short of help and everything else. So, gosh darn it, it's too bad they canceled Oshkosh. So, that leaves us with what are we going to do about Plain Fun? What do you think we're going to do about Plain Fun? I see it quite clearly. There ain't going to be no Plain Fun. Unfortunately, there's not going to be much anything. That there's my daughter, Katie. She's in and out of the movie studio down here. Anyways, pretty clear to me there ain't going to be no Plain Fun flying this year. There ain't going to be much of anything. I know I was talked about being hopeful of putting on a couple of AQP programs and a couple other things maybe towards the end of the summer, but I doubt that's going to take place on the way things are going. So, but we'll keep our ear to the ground, as it is, so to speak, and keep you updated on the situation as far as that goes. But I'd say, without any discussion of my officers or anybody else, it's quite apparent to me we ain't going to be doing no Plain Fun flying. Too bad. So where does that leave us with the EAA 582nd? Well, we don't have much to work with. I guess I'm going to try to do these videos, on account of that's about the only thing that's taking place. But I'm thinking about coming up with a format for my videos on a kind of a instructional nature for you. And I got a title of the podcast, or whatever you call it, vlog or whatever they are. I got a title for it, and it'd be How Not to Be a Clod at the Airport. What I'll be doing is going over stuff that your instructor probably never did go over with for you, or for some reason you never did learn. I got a few items, and I'm going to present one here in this video, which requires me to figure out how to do animation on the internet, on these programs. Anybody here know how to do animation? Probably not. Anybody here willing to do any animation for EAA 582 chapter videos? Probably not. But if you do, let me know, because I don't want to learn how to do it. But I put a rudimentary one together for this very first lesson on how not to be a clod at the airport. And I expect the other thing I'm going to do is update you on the progress of my latest model airplane stuff. It's interesting. You know what, with the pandemic and all, you'd think they'd be shut down and you wouldn't be able to buy model airplane stuff on the internet. However, that's not the case. They're going great guns. They're busy like crazy, and I've been able to order all my supplies online and get them delivered in a pretty timely fashion. So I have just about everything I need to get another one of my airplanes flying, which I expect to be probably the day after tomorrow. This is the weekend here. It's supposed to be 75 degrees on Saturday. Of course, the problem is my wife will have me working out there in the garden and whatnot, but I expect to be able to sneak off and put a flight or two in. I've been flying to Beaver. I got, I don't know, probably about 20, 30 flights on it. Everything's going fine with it. Haven't crashed it yet, but I'm getting tired of doing takeoffs and landings in the water. I want to be doing some other stuff like snap rolls. Y'all know how to do a snap roll, right? Or how about an avalanche? Y'all know how to do an avalanche, right? Or anything like that. Immelman, Cuban 8. Anyway, that's what I'll be doing with my airplane. So I got to tell you, I have this airplane. It's a scratch-built model I made about 5 years ago. I think I showed you pictures in the first video of it hanging up on the wall. I'll put a couple more pictures in here. But anyways, I was out doing these low-energy tail slides. I think it's kind of cool where you not a lot of power. You dive down. You try to go straight up, and then the airplane just hits, runs out of energy, and it falls. You try to get it to fall straight back down before the tail digs in and flips it around and goes straight down. You give it a little power. You just pull it up, and I kept doing that. It's one of the things I've always liked to do with model airplanes. And problem is I get lower and lower each time, and right at the last one I was going to do, you couldn't get any lower and recover safely. Right when it pulled up to the top, right at the very top, the engine just quit. Of course, the engine's at idle, and it just quit. And that happens a lot with glow engines. There's a reason for that. But anyway, that sucker fell backwards further than I've ever seen a model airplane fall backwards before. I had it just absolutely perfectly straight up. It fell backwards on a tail slide for quite a spell before it finally kicked around. And I was able to rotate about 45 degrees with what energy I had left in me. And then I hit the water, crashed in the pond out there, which is a good thing because the water is a little bit softer than the land. It hardly did any damage to all the airplane. It didn't sink. It just floated in one. The wing popped off of it, but it stayed intact. It was all together, and it floated across the other side of the pond. I picked it up, and it was in pretty good shape. So I thought, well, okay, all I got to do is fix this. Well, that was about 5 years ago. Well, one of the things I did was I took it out. I started the motor up, and I ran the motor to get all the water out of the motor, so I could put it away. Interesting sidebar is when Duck crashed in the river a few years ago, I guess more like 35 or 40 years ago, we did the same thing. We fished it out of the Maumee River and pulled it over to Tony's house, and it took about 3 weeks. We got the engine running, to get all the water out of it. But anyways, I did that thinking I was good, hung the airplane up. Well, it hung there about 4 or 5 years till this pandemic come along, and I'm going to fix this airplane up and get it going, right? So I start fixing the wing and doing the fabric work and all that stuff. I'm getting ready to get it up to speed. And then I go to turn over the engine. It's frozen solid. Propeller's still on it. Won't move. Oh, man. So I tried to lubricate it with some penetrating oil and all this stuff. Long story short, the bearings front and aft was rotten, rusted together. So it wasn't going to turn over, and I did get it to turn over. I got it spin over, no compression at all. The valves, it's a 4-stroker, so it's got little bitty valves, little bitty springs up there. They're all rusted, not no good or whatnot. So I thought, well, I got to rebuild this engine. Well, I don't like doing that stuff, so I don't have the special tools. And wouldn't you know, online they got a service where they'll overhaul your engine just like Manitowoc does, or Penn Yan, or Lycoming. So I think that's great, and I shipped my engine out anyways. I got it back $100 later, all zero-timed airframe, or all zero-timed down to brand new piston, ring, bearings. They went through it, test run it, she's all set to go. So I thought that was kind of funny. They got an overhaul service for model airplane engines nowadays. Not that many people fly glow engines or gasoline engines anymore. It's mostly electric, but I'm building this one up because it reminds me of my childhood. This is the same airplane I built when I think I was about 14 years old. Flew it for a while, quite a while actually. It was my first radio-controlled airplane. It had a set of orbit reads in that. Look that up on the internet if you're interested. And as a young man, I was learning about how to operate an airplane. I didn't put enough rubber bands on the wing. The rubber bands hold the wing on, right? And rubber bands have a finite life. If they're out in the ultraviolets and the oil gets on them, they're not as good as new rubber bands anyway. I was out there about 500 feet, and I went to turn, the old wing come right off of her. So full power, that fuselage went just like a lawn dart. Boom! Buried it right into the ground. And I actually repaired it, made a new fuselage for it, and had it flying some more. But anyways, I built this one about 5 years because I'm going through my midlife crisis about 5 years ago. I'm past that now, and I just realized I'm an old man. But so that's a scratch-built model of the first airplane I built, so it has kind of like a special emotional attachment to me. So I'll bring you up to speed on that. Speaking of model airplanes, Corbin Friend is building himself a U-Control. And a U-Control is an airplane that people call them string airplanes. We actually fly them on wires, piano wire, very thin piano wire on about a 60-foot circle. And it's a great airplane to learn how to build on because they're fairly easy, and it's a great airplane to learn how to fly model airplanes on. The best way for anybody to learn how to fly, if they want to be like Chuck Yeager or something like that, instead of learning as a private pilot, they should start out with hand launch gliders, then go to U-controls, then go to radio controls. But nobody does that. So, but if you were to build an airplane, a model airplane, and fly it, learn how to fly a model airplane, make you a much better real airplane pilot. Anyways, Corbin's got that Discord program started up, and you ought to go over and get hooked up on that Discord and go over there and meet up with him in the chat room on U-Control. I see he posted a picture of his wing. He's about got it done. Anyways, shout out to Corbin Friend, always doing something for the chapter. Great guy. Go check it out. All right, Dan, I've made a little bit of progress on this stunt plane here, this three-dimensional airplane from the last time I showed you. I made this really nice hatch that covers up all the radios and stuff on the inside. You can see I had to finish off this. You can see inside there's instruments and whatnot. I had to finish that off. That's got to be all finished before you paint the outside of this. So I made me a rudder, and I hooked up some of the radios. Watch this here. Pretty cool, huh? That rudder goes back and forth like that. See them little control cables on there, just like a real airplane. And there's other servos and stuff. Now, can you come in here, Katie, and get a close-up of what's inside here? See, and those are the servos down in there. That's the rudder hooked up to that. And there's batteries, and there's some other servos. This one's got to be hooked up to the elevator. And you can see where I mounted the gas tank down inside there a little bit. Got a propeller for it. It's a 12.6, if you know what 12.6 means on a propeller. That's about it on that. And then here's this Falcon. This Falcon has been hanging up. It's been pretty dusty for a while. Pretty good picture of it right there, except got to be in focus. Anyway, I had to do a repair. Here, hold this now. I had to do a repair on the wing here, and I had to do a fabric repair over there. Of course, that messes up the paint job. I had to fix the wing bolt, and also this little dowel goes in there to hold the wing on. Then I had to recover this whole piece here and repaint it. It's about ready to get its final paint. And you can see there's a little gas tank down in there. Here's that motor I got. It's a Sato 56 motor, all overhauled, zero time. Probably got about 100 hours on it, zero time down to since major overhaul. I just got to get that put together, and I can fly that this weekend. All right, then. This is a special new feature I'm trying to add to these videos called, I think the title of it will be How Not to Be a Clod at the Airport. Now, I know it may be hard for you to believe, but there's a chance that from time to time you may be a clod at the airport. The purpose of this video is to help identify clod-like behaviors so that you're aware of them and perhaps can avoid them. So in order to do that, we got to take off our amateur thinking cap and put on our professional thinking cap. This here's a hat I used to wear when I used to be a jet pilot years ago. I don't hardly ever remember doing it anymore. But I'm going to pick up on features and different behaviors and whatnot that I've seen over the years, I think, that make people kind of act like clods at airports. So if you have any suggestions for clod at airport dissertations, let me know, and I'll see if I can work one out for you. So this first one is the very first one on how not to be a clod at the airport, has to do with turns, and turns on the ground. Not turns in the air, but turns on the ground. And I tried to do a little animation to give you an idea what I'm talking about. So let's go to that crummy little animation I put together. Hopefully I'll get better and better at how to do these animations to get my point across to you on just exactly how not to be a clod at the airport. All right, then let's talk a little bit about turns. And I'm talking about turns on the ground in the airport, okay? I'm not talking about turns you do up there in the sky while you're practicing or with your instructor working on your heading, your coordination, your altitude control and airspeed control and whatnot.
This is how to keep from looking like a clod on the airport. Now, the little video I made here shows a fella coming down the parallel taxiway, turning off on what you call a connector and coming up to the ramp. And the ramp is the black part, and the white square is a hangar. And you can imagine the hangar doors open. Everybody's looking at this feller. He comes up and he turns counterclockwise right in front of the hangar, locks the left wheel up, gives it a lot of power, real slowly turns the airplane around and dusts the hangar off to beat the band in the process. Definitely a clod move. What he should have done is come in off the parallel taxiway onto the connector and then turn clockwise or to the right, and that way he would minimize his blast to the airport or to the hangar. But what he really ought to do is not do a damn lock wheel turn or spin around on a ramp. Where'd you get that from? Some kind of Sky King movie or what? I don't know. What you ought to do is just pull up on the ramp, pull the thing to stop, turn the engine off, get out and spin it around by hand. It's a lot easier to do. It's a lot safer. It's a lot more social and doesn't make you look like a clod when you're dusting everything off. Now, you're responsible for the air that you blow behind you. And there's a situation that took place that I was familiar with back when I was flying charters. There was at Chicago O'Hare Airport. Some fellows needed to do a run-up on a Boeing Model 747. They asked permission to go taxi to some place on the taxiway, or a hard stand is what you call it. And they went out there, locked the brakes, and set the thrust all the way up on all four of those motors. And it was blowing behind them perpendicular across the active taxiway. Well, along comes a doctor in his Bonanza, a twin-engine Bonanza. What do you call them things? Baron. He has no idea about all this that's going on. Taxis right into this jet blast, flips his airplane over, gas leaks out of his tanks, goes on the hot engine, poof, it's on fire, he burns to death and loses his life right there. The ensuing investigation, of course, determined that the fellas, in this case mechanics, excuse me, that was operating the 747 was negligent or whatever you want to call it, and found guilty or found at fault for causing the accident in the first place, as you would be if you caused damage to someone, something, somehow, with your prop wash. It's your prop wash, you own it, be aware of it, don't throw it around all over the place, and get out and spin the airplane around. You don't need to be doing them lock wheel turns right in front of a hangar. Anyways, you look like a clod if you do.